It's time for Business Minds Coffee Chat, an inspiring show about the journey to personal and professional growth. And now, your host, Jay Shear.
Hey everyone, you are listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat, and I am your host, Jay Shear, and welcome. I am thrilled that you're here today. So I'm going to do something a little different. Today is going to be more of a, let's call it a workshop or even a coaching session. So when I'm not behind the mic, when I'm not on the radio or a podcast, I'm coaching high-performing entrepreneurs and business owners, helping them get clear on their goals, unlock potential, crush excuses, and build the mindset, discipline, leadership, and accountability to reach new heights. So I'm doing this today to share some of the key lessons that can help you accelerate your growth and potential. So let me give you a little bit of background before I share why this matters. So I've had the opportunity through my podcast to interview over 280 absolute rock stars, game changers, Olympic athletes, Nobel Prize winners, renowned psychologists, top business gurus. It runs the full gamut. But I've been very fortunate to have so many incredible individuals on the podcast. And over the years and through those 280 plus hours of content, I've looked for the common threads, if there were some common through lines that spoke volumes about how these individuals were able to achieve success, how they were able to overcome some of the darkest moments and get back up and keep going and learn some of the most valuable lessons that life had to offer. And what the difference was that actually made the difference. So as I would go back and listen and take notes and reference back to these conversations, there were certain key lines, through lines that I started to recognize. So that is what I'm going to share with you today. There's going to be really three key areas that I'm going to focus on. So first, let's talk about why this information matters and why it should matter to you. First, understand that success itself, however you define it, isn't an accident. Success is not an accident. Your habits, your choices, your environment, they all shape your future. So this is going to be a working session. So I want you to come along with me on this journey. And while I'm talking to you, if you're in a place where you can actually write things down, I'm going to give you some things I'd like you to do or things I'd like you to consider. So if you're not in a safe place or if you're driving right now, I just want you to listen to my voice. But when this episode comes out as a podcast, I would encourage you to go back, re-listen to it, and actually do the things that I'm asking you to do. So number one, since I mentioned that success isn't an accident, I would ask you to write down on a sheet of paper how you define success. What does success mean to you? And be very specific when you write it down. So no judgment here. It may be tied to, financial success. It may be tied to relationship success. But for you, I want you to write that down, how you define it. So the three big things that we're going to cover on today's show are goals, having a bias toward action, and the right rooms and mentorship. Now, remember, I mentioned that there are really three common through lines that I found amongst all of these different conversations that I had. Those are the three commonalities that just began to be clear throughout hours and hours of conversations with these individuals. So goals, having a bias toward action, and being in the right rooms and mentorship. So let's start with the power of goals. Now, I'm sure that many of you that are listening right now are probably goal setters. At least you're familiar with the importance of having goals. Perhaps you think about your goals, but maybe you don't necessarily write them down or take any specific actions on them. So for the purpose of our conversation today, I'm going to go through with you a framework that has been very successful with the coaching clients that I work with. There's lots of different ways that you can set and establish goals, but I'm going to give you a framework here that's going to light your goals on fire. So why do we have goals in the first place? Well, goals give us direction and clarity. If we don't have them, we ultimately drift. So goals equal clarity. Remember this, that people don't rise to the level of their potential. They fall to the level of their systems. So let's talk about a system that you can put into practice that can help you in establishing your goals. And then we're going to talk about how to execute most effectively on goals. So you've probably heard of SMART goals before. You know, SMART goals being specific and measurable, that there's actionable steps, that they're relevant, that they're time-bound, okay? SMART goals is a great framework, and it is most definitely a framework that I use. But we're going to add a little bit of juice to SMART goals. So first, and I agree with the acronym SMART, specific and measurable. All right. So if you have a goal for yourself, I want you to make sure that you are getting hyper specific on what that goal is. So let me give you one example. I often hear young people saying that, ooh, I want to make a lot of money. Okay. Well, making a lot of money, first, money is the outcome of actually doing something that's worthy and adds value to other people. But let's just say somebody wants to, quote, make a lot of money. Is making a lot of money specific enough? Can you actually measure whether you're making a lot of money? Well, the short answer is no. So let's get a little more specific on the financial aspect and the desire to make a lot of money. If you said to me, hey, Jay, I'd like to make $10 million and I'd like to make $10 million by a certain date. Okay, now you're getting a bit more specific. So you follow me on that? So now we've actually locked in the specific goal that we're looking for, $10 million, and we're looking to make $10 million by a certain date. So I want you to go ahead and write down your specific goal. And like it could be a goal such as I want my marriage to be the best that it can be, and here is what the best looks like for my marriage or for a working relationship that I have with somebody. Again, get very specific and define what that looks like for you. Secondly, after you've gotten very specific, is how are you going to measure that goal? How are you going to measure your performance and your progress toward reaching that goal? So you want to make sure that you are developing some, let's just call them metrics or ways that you can determine whether you're actually moving in the right direction toward your goals. Okay, so in the financial realm, let's just say that $10 million goal, right, I can set up key metrics that say every 30 days I'm measuring my bank account to see if my bank account is actually increasing versus staying flat or going in the opposite direction, right? So there are certain key metrics that I can put into place. And then once we've defined how we're going to measure the actual goal, we want to develop the steps, the actions that we're going to take every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, the things that we're going to do that ultimately roll up and help us move in the direction of achieving our goal. All right. So I will say that when it comes to defining those action steps, the best approach that I have found is to start with the end in mind and then start to work backwards, right? So breaking that goal down into its smallest components. I'll talk about that here on the execution side in just a moment. So now I've got some specific steps we're going to take. The next piece of this is the R part of SMART goals, and that's making sure that the goal itself is relevant to your bigger vision. Now, when I asked you at the top of the show to define what success means to you, right? Success in this example becomes your bigger vision, right? However you define success, we want to make sure that any goal that you set for yourself aligns with and is relevant to the bigger vision. Okay, makes sense. Otherwise, if it wasn't relevant and if it wasn't a meaningful enough goal, I would ask, why are you doing this, right? Why is it a goal for you? Next piece of the SMART goal framework is establishing a time frame, or what some would say, time bound, right? We want to make sure that we have a specific timeline attached to our goal, so it's not wide open, right? So if I have a goal to be able to run a 5K within 60 days, right? I want to be able to define the when, right? When am I going to achieve that goal? So I just said 60 days, right? So I've established a time frame around it. I know what the goal is. Now I can start with the end in mind, work backwards, develop the steps, the actions that I'm going to take every day that are going to help me achieve and be able to run that 5K in 60 days. Okay. So that is kind of the SMART framework. Now, the smarter part of this, okay, these next couple pieces are really what adds fuel to the fire. This is what you're not going to always hear about when it comes to goals. So the next piece of this is evaluating and adjusting your goal accordingly. So as you are working on your goals, as you've established a timeline, as you're working toward the goal, working along that timeline, you want to be able to evaluate and assess, how am I doing? How am I doing working toward that goal? Am I moving in the right direction, right? Am I actually making progress? And if I'm not, then I need to make subtle adjustments. So don't be so rigid in your goals and in your process that you don't allow for evaluation and adjustment. Adjustment just means that you're not where you should be at this very moment. If you make a slight adjustment, it's actually going to help you progress and proceed further on your goals. Okay, so evaluate and adjust. Now, there are two big questions that I want you to write down and ask yourself every time you establish a big goal. First question to ask yourself is, why is this goal so important to me? Why? And I want you to be very specific on the answer to that question as well. I want you to feel this. Why is it so important? And then the second question to ask is, what is the impact this is going to have on my life if I don't achieve the goal? All right. If you don't achieve the goal, we're motivated by two things in life, pain and pleasure. We need to attach some pain to this goal to keep us driving in the right direction. So you define for yourself why it's important. And then number two, what is the impact if I don't achieve this goal? All right. So we're up against a break here. We've got a lot more to go. So for right now, I hope you're taking notes. We will be back on the other side of the break right now. We are going to take a brief break to thank our sponsors. My friends, you are listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat. Don't you go anywhere. We will be right back.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
Hey, it's Jay with Thomas Media Solutions. Join us every Monday night from 6 to 8 at Tortugas in Flagler Beach for the best live entertainment around. We do several rounds of general knowledge trivia. That means it's trivia for everyone. It just doesn't get any better than this. If you're looking for the best food, the best drinks, the best people, and the best entertainment around, Tortugas is the place to be. Make sure to get there early to get a seat. See you there.
All right, here we go. Let us entertain you all season long at the Fitzgerald Performing Arts Center. Our brand new season is out now. We've got great shows and great seats waiting for you. Every time you buy a ticket to a show at the Fitz, you support the performing arts in Flagler schools. Get all the information and buy tickets at flaglerentertainment.com.
This is Jay Shear. Are you a business owner or entrepreneur trying to figure out how to improve and achieve greater results? If so, I'm speaking to you. I provide the tools, coaching, and accountability you need to gain clarity around your personal and professional goals, remove the excuses holding you back, build the mindset, leadership skills, and proven strategies to grow your business and become the best version of yourself. To learn more or to apply for my coaching services, call 904-236-0431 or visit jshearbusinessconsulting.com.
Hello, Flagler County community. This is Dr. Phyllis Pearson, president of our Flagler County branch of the NAACP. This is a personal invitation for you to join us for our 2025 Freedom Fund Luncheon and Awards event on Saturday, October 11th at the Hilton Daytona Beach Resort. For tickets, ads, sponsorships, and donations, visit fcbnaacp.org. Your support is greatly appreciated.
All right, we're back. And again, you're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat. And again, today is a bit different. We've got a bit of a workshop here. Let's call it a coaching session. So 3 big areas that we're focusing on. We've been talking about goals here. And again, I hope you're taking notes. And again, if you are driving, I'm giving you some homework assignments here. All right. I expect you to hold yourself accountable and actually follow through on the things that I'm asking you. Because if you want to see change in your life and change in your business, the only way that happens is it requires change. It requires doing the work. All right, no change equals no change. So there were 2 big questions that we were talking about when it came to goals, and I definitely want to make sure that you're answering those 2 questions. Now, the next piece to goals is execution. All right, it's one thing to write your goals down, to develop a timeline, to make sure that the goal is relevant to your bigger vision, to have the action steps, so on and so forth, but if you don't actually execute on them, then nothing's going to happen. And I want you to remember this. When you're prepared to do whatever your goals demand, you will accomplish whatever you set your mind to. All right, remember that. But execution is everything. So you've got a big goal. You've gone through the goal framework. Now, how do you execute? Well, again, we want to start with the end in mind, and then we want to work backwards, and we want to break the actions into the smallest components possible, right? We want to break big goals into small wins. Why is that important? Because often if we have something that's huge in front of us, there's a big mountain for us to climb, we can't do it all at one time, right? We have to think through this. We have to take it one step at a time. We climb. Sometimes we have to climb down a little bit before we can climb even higher, right? So we want to break these goals into small wins. That's going to keep us motivated. It's going to keep us driven. We're going to start to see momentum begin to take off, right? And all of that matters in you being able to achieve your big goals. Daily habits, they compound over time. Remember that. Daily habits compound over time. So when you are working on your goals every day and you're taking those steps that are necessary, creating those small wins, that's going to compound. And discipline is what you need to keep going. Discipline beats motivation every single time. All right, so that's how you're going to execute on your goals. Make sure that you're measuring it and that you're evaluating and adjusting as necessary. Okay, so that's enough on goals right now. That's going to at least get you moving in the right direction. The next thing that I wanted to talk about with you today is that best way to say this is we need to have a bias toward action. A bias toward action. And something I want you to think about here, and I would ask that you write this down as well, is perfection is a lie. Perfection is a lie. If you're chasing perfection before you choose to do something, if you think that, well, I can't act on that until I have everything worked out, until everything is perfect, right? Until I've got the perfect situation, I've got the perfect amount of money in the bank or the perfect relationship before I move to the next level. If you think that is the case, then you are just procrastinating, because perfect is just procrastination in disguise. So here's what I'm going to ask of you. I'm going to ask you to act anyway. Just get started. Start ugly. It's going to be ugly at the beginning. Nobody has this figured out. Nobody has the perfect start. You may think they do, but they really don't. So start ugly, start fast, and start now. All right? Start now. I promise you this. You'll learn more in 30 days of actually doing something than 300 days of planning. Now, I do plan, and I am a planner, but I don't plan every detail because I can't foresee every single detail that I need to know in order to execute on something, and neither can you. All right, no matter how much experience you have, things are always going to come up. But instead of over-planning, start having more of a bias toward action, okay? Action overcomes all. Also, please don't wait for the perfect time, because just as I talked about with perfection, there really is no perfect time. If we want to say that there's a perfect time, the perfect time is now to act, okay? No matter what's going on, I want you to go ahead and take action. Action is greater than thinking, okay? Now, yes, I do think. As I mentioned, I do plan. But overthinking is where we get stuck. Ideas themselves are cheap. Everybody's got them. Everybody's got an idea, but not everybody executes on those ideas. So execution is what pays. And I want you to fail forward and fix fast. So if you think that you're not going to fail when you take action, then think again. I have failed so many times. The key is that you're learning through failure. Every failure is an opportunity to learn something. And if you reframe it that way, then it doesn't hurt quite so badly. All right. But think about it this way. If you're not doing anything, then you're not going to fail. But those who actually do things, those who work to move the needle, those who focus on growth, those who are interested in becoming a better version of who they are today and actually reach their potential, that takes work. That takes action. That means that you're going to fail. But fail forward and fix whatever happened quickly. Every move that you make equals momentum. Okay? All right. So that is building a bias toward action. I want you to ask yourself, what is the next best step that I can take today, right now? All right? I want you to take that action. All right. Next piece to this. And this is really the third through line that I found throughout hundreds of hours of conversation with game changers, world shakers, top business leaders, my own coaching clients, etc. So the third piece to this is the right rooms and mentorship. Now, what do I mean by that? Being in the right rooms changes everything. Who you surround yourself with is who you become. All right, think about that. Who you surround yourself with is who you become. Your circle, the people that you spend the most time with, they are your ceiling. All right, I want you to think through that, okay? So the people that you surround yourself with, who you spend the most time with, they define your ceiling. If you're in the wrong rooms, then you are thinking small. Being in the right room equals new standards and new opportunities. So how do you find the right rooms? Well, number one, you need to be intentional about where you spend your time. All right? Be hyper vigilant with your time. Time is the most valuable, non-renewable resource we have. It is the most valuable, non-renewable resource we have. So you need to be intentional about how you use it and where you spend your time. Okay, so that's the first point. Second point is to find people who actually challenge and inspire you, people who challenge you to go further, people who challenge your beliefs, people who challenge you to become a better version of yourself. If you're not being challenged and inspired by the people around you, then you are in the wrong rooms. All right? The next piece of that is to learn to say yes to the opportunities that actually stretch you. If you're saying yes to too many things, but the things that you're saying yes to aren't actually moving the needle in your life or in your business, or they're not stretching you to go further, then you need to start saying no to the opportunities that don't move you further and start saying yes more often to the things that actually do move you further. Okay? Next piece to rooms and mentorship is mentorship, the power of mentorship. What does mentorship allow you to do? Well, number one, you're not reinventing the wheel, right? You're learning from someone else who's already been there and who has done that. So you're borrowing their wisdom and avoiding the dumb mistakes that so many of us make. I certainly have made my share, and I've also learned from incredible mentors. So I have mentors in my life for different areas of my life, and I'm also a mentor to other people. Also, you want to make sure you're getting feedback and being held accountable as a mentee. All right, so you want to ask for feedback because we all have blind spots. So how am I doing? Where do I need to improve? Right? Get that feedback and hold yourself accountable. Lastly, mentors collapse time frames. They actually shorten your learning curve. So if you want to grow more quickly, if you want to learn more quickly, then surround yourself with incredible mentors. All right. So action steps. What is your next move? I want you to go ahead and define one big goal for the next 30 days. I want you to go through the framework that I gave you at the beginning of the show. Write it down, define it, be crystal clear. Number 2, I want you to take messy action this week. It's not going to be perfect, but I want you to take action. I want you to get used to building a bias toward action. And then 3rd, I want you to get into better rooms. Mentorship, community, network, build your sphere of influence that you surround yourself with. That may mean that you need to say goodbye to some people, or at least spend less time with some people who aren't pushing you and challenging you, and then build new relationships. All right. Here's my final message to you before we wrap up. Don't overthink. Start now. Surround yourself with greatness. You are one skill, one connection, and one decision away from changing your life. All right, that takes us to the end of the show. I want to thank you so very much for tuning into Business Minds Coffee Chat. We will be back next Saturday morning at 8:30. And until then, my friends, keep learning and growing and keep doing the work to reach your potential. Take care, everybody.